Hello and welcome to Theology on Tap. I have made few videos in the past about the difference between the NIV and Pashitta, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, Pashitta. Anyways, even though many people don't use NIV anymore, the theology of Christians have not really changed. However, if you were to read the Aramaic text, I'm thinking that many of your theology may change. I think that's one of the reasons why people don't want to read Pashitta, Aramaic text. But I strongly advise you to read Pashitta, especially the ones that's been translated by Lamza, because he's got a bunch of other books that explains why Aramaic language was probably the language Jesus spoke, and it was the language that many of the New Testament books were written in. So there it goes. Anyways, I know that there are differences between NIV and Pashitta. However, I have never really met and had a conversation with someone who uses the Aramaic text. Never have. Until recently. Recently, since I drive for Lyft, and the best thing about Lyft is not the money. All right, that's for sure. But it is a chance to meet so many different people. I have given rides to over 7,000 people, and I have so many stories. The things that I learned from these professionals and everyday people that it's amazing. It's better than reading any book, to be honest with you. However, going to the story of the Aramaic text. All right, I met a woman on Sunday morning because the church that I go to doesn't start till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I could drive in the morning, drive some people to church. It's fun because I get to talk about Jesus and everything. And I drove this Ethiopian Christian woman, and she's very religious. She takes the Bible very seriously. She talked about her love for Jesus Christ, and I get excited when people talk about Jesus Christ in a certain manner. So I didn't even know this, but Ethiopian Christian church, they use their Aramaic Bible, and I was excited. So I was asking her some question about it, and she told me that I guess Assyrian church, Coptic church, uses Aramaic text, and there's part of Orthodox church that uses Aramaic text. Obviously, the Greek Orthodox don't use the Aramaic text. Maybe the Russian Orthodox church do. And she was explaining me all that kind of stuff, so I thought that was very interesting. And I asked her about the English Bible, specifically NIV. Right? I asked her if she reads NIV or NASB, and she didn't know many of the other translations that I was talking about, which is kind of sad, but I wish she would read it. But one of the things she did say is that she doesn't trust the English Bible. She relies only on Aramaic Bible because she herself said Jesus spoke Aramaic. It's the language that people are using at the same time. So if people are using Aramaic as their language, why would they write in Greek to one another? That's what Lamza said. So I'm going, I agree with you. For I read Pashitta. And she got really excited too. So she was excited that an Asian American brought up in a Protestant church is reading Pashitta. So I asked her this because I wanted to know whether what Lamza said was true. I asked her, do you know, or did you know, one of the last things that Jesus said on the cross? And she said, of course. Well, I told her, in NIV, Jesus says, all right, Jesus says, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? All right. Now, if you watch my other video on NIV versus Pashitta, I talked about this. That Lamza, who translated the Aramaic text, what he says is that's false. What Jesus said, I think if I remember it correctly, he said something like, for this reason I have survived. Meaning the reason why he wasn't murdered earlier or taken out earlier is to die on the cross for the sins of the world. All right, that's the point. This is the reason I survived. The purpose of living. That's why right after this, he say, it is accomplished. All right, that's what he says. It is accomplished. His reason for living has been accomplished. So I told her that. I said, did you know in English Bible, Jesus says, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? And she got upset. Her accent was very heavy. All right. So half of the things she said after she got upset I didn't understand really, because she was ranting on for a while. I know I understood something like, why would my Lord and Savior question God in such a manner? So I tried to explain to her, well, because he took, well, like American Christians or Western Christianity believes since he took on the sins of the world, right, God had to disregard him because he was a sinful man. And she went on to say something like, God doesn't disregard sinful men. God loves sinful people. Nah, nah, nah. She was going on, and she was really, really upset. Now, I didn't ask her what Aramaic text says because the writer was short and she got out before she could tell me. I didn't ask her, what did Jesus say then? Because the Lambda says, for this reason I have survived. But I thought that was very interesting, that there are Christians in the world that will reject the saying of Jesus in English. That's from the Greek text. And, there is the divide right there because of it. So I would think that it would be nice, it would be good for Christians to go ahead and read all the different texts and go into the reason why some people would like, NIV or NASB compared to Aramaic text. And if there are differences, right, we need to look into it and see why. And we need to ask questions. Where does our, theology come from? Where did it begin? Especially when it comes to heaven and hell. Did Jesus believe in the same, concept of heaven and hell as we believe in today? I'm thinking most likely not. Then, what were his views? We need to look into that. And if his views were different, when did our understanding of heaven and hell start? Most likely around 500 something AD. Why did that happen? And, we need to know so that we could be sure of what we're saying. But when it comes to, different understandings or different theologies, that's why we have so many different denominations in the world. I think over 300 something denominations in the world. And if that is the case, then, how are we going to get along with one another if we're arguing back and forth? I guess we could debate one another, but if one of our understanding is so vastly different than the other, like there are Christians who believe you have to believe in Jesus to be saved and go to heaven. There are others that say something totally different. There are people who believe that everyone are born sinners, and there are believe they say, no, everybody's born, sinners or not, it doesn't matter. They don't know anything. It's how they're raised and how they're directed in their life that matters. Which one is correct. To be able to say, I believe this particular theology to be true and disregard any other ones and say they're a bunch of heretics or whatever, I don't think that's good, right? And this is where I think Jesus came to do, basically, is that there are written books, written laws, translations, and different interpretations of the Bible that we could argue back and forth, right? So it depends on which culture you were brought up in. Like I was brought up in South Korea back in the 60s and early 70s. And if you meet Christians at that time, they didn't really talk about it, but abortion was okay to Koreans at the time. In fact, my mother wanted to abort, her child, me, when I was in her stomach, because they didn't see it as sin. But whereas in the Western world, it is definitely one of the biggest sins in the world because you're murdering somebody. So who's correct? You can't just say I'm right and you're wrong. That's the problem with the Bible, all right? But the words of Jesus is not to say what's right and wrong in the sense of the written code. What Jesus did was give us love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, right? That's the fruit of the Spirit. In that sense, we could get along. I think that's what's more important. So instead of getting upset about, hey, your theology is no good, you're a heretic, or, we throw these words around and we make judgments. And judgments come because we think we're right and everybody else is wrong. And that idea comes from the Bible, right? What's right and wrong. What is holy and what is not holy. Bible, the law seems to say the answer to that question. What is holy and what is not holy? What is right worship and what is worshiping the idol? And we just kind of throw it all out there, telling people what to do and what not to do. All the while, Jesus comes along, right, and brings the Jews and Gentiles together through his blood by saying, the written code, the words that God gave was to only frustrate people because it is hard for us to get along with the law. And the one thing that we need to remember is grace. And I think that's what Jesus would say. So you know, like I had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my house talking to my son, and I let my son always talk, but they were going for hours. So my son called me to get involved. So I started talking, and they started telling me about their theology. And I say, hey, I think that's great. You have some kind of belief. But, hey, listen, you know, your belief in some kind of theology is not what's important. Is to say, Jesus Christ is Lord. That's all that matters. And if Christ is Lord of your life and you are living out your, belief in that saying, Jesus Christ is Lord, in the best way possible, how can we fight? How can we disagree on that? All right. I think that's what's important. Because if we just go with what, theology we're brought up with, then we're not going to get it. We're just going to keep on dividing one another. Jesus came to unite in his spirit, not to divide. All right. I thought that was really interesting. If you have not read the Pashitta, order it from Amazon. Especially the one that was translated by Lamza. It's really, really good. I really like that. It's my favorite book. In fact, I don't have that Bible with me right now, but if I did have it, I'll show you. It's all ripped because I use it so much. It's time for me to buy another one. All right. God bless you. All right. I hope you meet a lot of wonderful people in this world, like I have a chance to, and to be able to share that Jesus Christ is Lord. God bless you, and I'll see you next time.